Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi Peah, Pedig Vav, concluding Halacha Dalet, going through Halacha Hey, and beginning Halacha Vav. We're going to learn Daf Nun Hey. We're starting Mamish on top of the Amid. The final piece of Halacha Dalet will be going back to the Machlekes we have in the Mishnah between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, both by Shikha and Leket and by Peret, whether the cutoff is 2 versus 3, Keshitas Beis Hillel. If you forget 2, if you drop 2, La'aniyim. If you forgot 3, even though you forgot 3, it's that much, it's not called Shekha. Beis Shammai holds, no, even 3 is La'aniyim, only 4 Balabayas. What is this sourced on? That will be the first topic we're learning today. We're going to start Mishnah Hey, relatively up and Daf Nun Hey. The Mishnah is going to tell us about another limit that we have, B'negei, something that cannot become Shekha, and that's regarding the size of the sheaf, the size of the standing grain that one might forget, and the sizes of 2 sa'ah. Now, I know that we already quoted this Mishnah before in the Masechta. When we learned it then, we quoted some who opine that in our terms, 2 sa'ah would be around 30 or 31 pounds. We're going to follow another shita, which would fit more with what we'll learn in the Gemara, that 2 sa'ah is the weight of 90 pounds. 90 pounds is also something that some people can lift, but it's already something that you need a more koyach to lift something that has 90 pounds. We'll see why that's important. The weight will be important. We're going to have another application in this Mishnah of the concept of royin. Royin means that not always do things have to be actual. Many times in halacha, when something is there in potential, it's good enough. The source of that is a topic that we have by a mincha in the Nachas, that the largest keli in which we can offer a mincha is a keli that can hold 6D isarains of flour. Why? Because when you make a donation of a mincha, you have to bring 1 loig of oil. And the Torah says that you have to mix the oil in the flour. And this is a 1 loig. The most that it's helpful for mixing is for 60 isarins. If you have more than 60 isarins, it's too little oil. Now, the emes is that you don't actually have to knead the flour in the oil. So if you don't have to do it anyways, why do I care if I were to bring a mincha of 61 sa'ah or 60 isarins or more? So the word is called haroi lebila. If it could happen, then it's good. If it's not a ra'ui, another example that we learned is when it comes to going to the mikveh, right? A woman nowadays, Vanida, when we're going to be metired ourselves from the Av, Mashiach will come to go into the Beis Hamikdash, or the dinei chatzitza by men will be the same. What happens if a person, for example, if they have stitches in their mouth? Not all stitches are the same. Do they dissolve? Do they not dissolve? But many times you have an issue in the mouth. It's a chatzitza. Question is, you don't even have to open your mouth when you go under the water. They're also royin. If you were to open your mouth with the water, touch all of their gums, then it's good, even though you didn't do it. But if it's not ra'ui, then it's a chatzitza. And many other areas, we're going to have another application of royin in the Mishnah Daf Nun Hey, Mishnah Daled. And that will be one big topic. And the final topic, which will be, God willing, we'll learn the Mishnah, Halacha Vav, at the end of Daf Nun Hey, maybe going even into a little bit of Daf Nun Vav, we're going to have the following rule, Chavna. I know we're going to learn it again. It's so good to hear this twice. The rule is, Kama matzelas es ha'omer ve'es ha'kama. Kama means if I still have standing grain that I did not cut yet, no shikha, I didn't even get there yet. Near that standing grain, either you forgot kama or you forgot an oimer, simply because of it being near the standing grain that you did not yet cut, which you will go cut. That kama is matzel, doesn't allow the bundle that you forgot. doesn't allow the sheaf, the batch that you went over before you harvested, it doesn't allow it to become shikha. Kama is matzeles esoimer ve'esakama. But in contrast, a sheaf, a bundle that you didn't yet pick up, is not matzel another sheaf that's adjacent to it. It's not matzel the kama that's adjacent to it. We'll see what adjacent means. This is a rule. You'll hear it once, you'll hear it twice, and then God willing, tomorrow we'll learn the Gemara. This is a big klal when it comes to the dinam of shikha. Let's start on Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, all the way on top of the Amid. Ba'al kulam is shikha and peret and leket, where the Mishnah says, and that's the shita we're quoting. If you forget two, shikha. You forgot three, it's not shikha. 2 airs drop by leket. Three or more, no. Peret, we learned yesterday simultaneously. If 3 fall, it's not. So the Mishnah says, all of this, Beis Shammai holds, no. Even 3 is shikha, is peret, is leket. Only 4 does it retain, will the balabas retain it? Says the Gemara like this, Amar Rabbi Oven, Tamayu de Beis Shammai. Now we have a pasuk in Parshas Kisei that for some reason we're going to be quoting in different contexts, I think 3 times in this daf. If you want to read the whole pasuk, many of us have in the bottom left the Torah Oir HaShalim, right? The pasuk writes Kisiksoi Kitzircha Bisodecha. This is the pasuk of Shikha, V'shachachto Omer Basode, Lo Yisashuv Lekachtoi, and the Torah says Lager, La Yosim B'Lalmana Yihia, etc., etc. So you have Lager, La Yosim B'Lalmana Yihia. This is Gavaldik, says Reb Avin, Mashma, that even if you forgot 3 bundles, what's the 3? That one can go to again, another to the Yosim, a third to the Almana. Even that is shikha. It was the fact that the Torah gave 3 examples of people that are needy. Why 3? That even if you forgot for each one means you forgot 3. It's still shikha. 4, then you already get to keep it. Tamayu de Beis Hillel. So that's the whole word. In Parshas Kedoshim, you have 2 psukim, one after the other. The pasuk of leket. Right afterwards, the Torah gives you the pasuk of peret. The second pasuk, which goes on both, says that the karma chaloisa oil, uperet karma chaloisa laket, and the Torah says only la oni v'lager tazavoisam. It's gavaldik. There's no almana. It's mamash gavaldik. Why did the Torah only mention oni and ger? Why do we not mention almana? Fakir, that's the whole source. That only if you forget 2 bundles, one for the ani, one for the ger, Shlomi, you should dance. It's gavaldik this. Then that now, this is by leket and peret. The pasuk of Beis Shammai is shikha. Bechlal were makish one to the other. The question is, what's the ikir? The only thing is, even if the pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim is the ikir, what does Beis Hillel do by the fact that when it comes to shikha, the Torah does say that lager la yosem v'lalmana. So they say that when it comes to the Yisomim, I know that a Yosem doesn't have to mean a minor. But normally when a person is an adult, at some point we lose our parents. We're not in the category of Yisomim. A Yisomim, the needy Yosem is the little Yosem. The little Yosem is held by the mother. In other words, the one that the Almana takes, the mama, she takes it for her, she takes it for the Yosem. So he puts it together. And the Haraya, the fact that the Torah sometimes only mentions 2 and not 3, it's 2 and not 3. Okay, that is one way of understanding the machlokes. Amar Rabbanan, Shnei Mikra Echad Darshu. I don't need to go to Yurab Oven to say that the Tam of Beis Hillel comes from the pasuk in Kedoshim by leket and peret. I will hold that everyone is going to the pasuk in Kisei say where the Torah Taka mentions Ger, Yosem, and Almana. Nor was then afterwards the Torah writes the words Yihiyam, and we have this throughout Chazal. Yihiyam means Bahavayoso Yiyah. Yiyah means it should retain its status quo, meaning Beis Shammai, the way we said before. In other words, Rav Man agrees with Rab Oven. Beis Shammai says, yeah, the Torah mentions 3. That means even if you forgot 3 pekalach, which will be 1 for 1, 1 for the other, 1 for the third, still it is shikha. Since it says ye, guys, means it stays in the original state. It stays the way it is. The field belongs to the balabas. The trade is machadish that you by accident it dropped out of your hand. You forgot. This is done by forgetfulness. It goes to them. So the trader says, if it's enough, Sail again, and La Yosef, and La Almana for 3, then it remains with the balabas, not Yi Shikha. Things stay the way they are. The balabayas. That's Gavaldik. Okay. I want you to know that in Parshas Kedoshim, you don't have the word yet. The Torah mentions la'ani, vilaged, tazav. It fits. If it's 2, tazav oisam, leave it for them. If it's 3, the remes, then it remains to the balabas. Okay. Now let's move on to the new mission. So here is another big rule regarding an item that will not become shikha. Even though the Mishnah is going to begin with shikchas oimer, if the quantity is of sosayim to sa'am, and you forgot it because of its size, einoi shikha. Says that Ashrilio, Gavakuk on the right side, right a couple of lines down by the Masnisim. So what's I mentioned before that when we learned this a couple of weeks ago, we said it's like 31 pounds. Here that Ashrilio says it's Mishkal Sosayim. And Veshiur Mishkaloi, how much does it weigh? Mashma b'Masechtas Truma is Perik Batzel, Shu Tishin Veshisha Litrin, and V'Cholitra Meyazuz. So even though that Shlem is tired, easy cheshbon, it's 9,600 zuz, right? Because every liter is 100 zuz. And you should know that 9,600 zuz, based the zuz, the Shisha Ma'in, look at that Asher Elio, he speaks about a Turkish weight. The who, Darham Bachatzi, did you ever hear of such a weight? Darham, Mimalchus, Turkiya. That's around 90 pounds. You know, that's a lot of that's relatively a lot. I know that you can pick up 90 pounds because you must not give it. But you come to my age, when you're going down the field with one hand to pick up 90 pounds, it takes koyach yeshlim.
90 pounds or 60 pounds? You said like
90 pounds. 90 pounds. It's not even a bit more than 90 pounds. Anyway, there's a big machloikas about this. I'm just emphasizing the shita because it's going to help us understand the Gemara. When we travel, I think the luggage is 50 pounds. One luggage, I think it's 50, international. 90 pounds, which is almost double. You need koyach. I know people can do it, but it's not anyone can give a pickup. Okay. Now comes the Mishnah. Shnei Amorim. Only if you were to weigh them together will you have the weight of Sosayim. We have a Gavaldik Machloikis between Rabbi and Gamliel and the Chachamim. And Chevra, you have to remember this Machloikis, and we're going to contrast this Machloikis with the Machloikis we're going to have on top of Nun Vav that we're going to learn today if we'll get there in the Mishnah. What's the Machloikis over here? Rabbi Gamliel says, Lebalabayis. I'm going to use the words Tziruf. He's mitzad of them. He combines them. No, there's a rule of Tusa. Rabbi Gamliel says it doesn't have to be in one pekel. If one is near the other, and even though two is shikha, no, it won't be shikha because you have sosayim. The chachamim hold it's laniyim because we don't combine them. The klal of ha'omer sheyesh bo sosayim u'shchachai is only if it's one bundle. Now the rationale behind Rabbi Gamliel and the chachamim, guys, we're going to have in the Gemara 2 ways of understanding their machlokes. Okay. But we have to, I'm saying it's good to remember this to appreciate the end of today's stuff. In the Mishnah, we have a record of some back and forth, some shakal of Itaria, which isn't that common in the Mishnah, between Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim. So, Amar Rabbi Gamliel, let me ask you a question. As a rule, yupa koyach shabalabayis or yuhura koyach shabalabayis? What happens if there is more that's forgotten? When you forget more, is it disadvantageous for the ani or is it disadvantageous for the balabayis, or on the other side? When you forget more, when I forget more, is it better for the balabayis or is it better for the ani? What did we just learn? The whole previous Mishnah, whether it's 2 to 3, whether it's 3 for 4, I don't care. The fishitas whom lokula alma. When there is more, it's better for the balabayis. So Rabbi Gamliel is saying, if 1 pekel is 2 sa, lokula alma, it's not shikha. 2, I know that 2 has the same weight, but still the number 2 is more than 1. If by shikha we find elsewhere that more is better for the balabayis, makes sense that you should combine it, and it should be for the balabais, which is what Rabbi Gamliel says for balabais. The Chachamim agree. They say, yeah, that the more you forget, if you forget 3, not 2, if you forget more, then it's better for the balabais. So now that they said it, so Amar Ahem, so Zak Rabbi Gamliel, okay, ma im bisman shehu oimer echad, that everyone agrees that since that one oimer, that one sheaf, that one pekala, that has in it the weight, let's go with the weight of sosayim, ushachachai, everyone agrees in a shikha. So now what are we debating about? Shnei oimarim, and combined you have sosayim. So not only do I have the weight of sosayim, I have more. Avade einoidin, it should be labalabayis, meaning einodin shulayir shikha, right? That's a good logic. In other words, combine them. So amrulai im amru ba'omer echad. You see, you have to know why. Why is it that if it has sosayim, not shikha? Why? We didn't have that yet. We're gonna have 2 opinions later. But the Chachamim here in the Mishnah are saying is because the Torah speaks about forgetting a oimer. The shachachta oimer. A oimer means a sheaf. A sheaf means a bundle. There comes a point. Where do they take the bundles to? They take the bundles to a pile. That's called a gadish. If the bundle is too big, the shit, where do we get it? We'll see. Sosayim. It's not an oimer. It's already called the gadish. Im amru ba'oimer echad shehu ki gadish, which is why it's not shikha. Stoimer b'shtei amarim, 2 amarim are krichos. Krichos means a pekel, a bundle. In other words, you're right. When it comes to 2 to 3 or 3 to 4, I get it. More. It comes a point. You just had in the previous sugya, like la yasam ve'alman, or like la yasam. I get that. But the reason why sosayim is not shikha because of its size. If it's broken down into 2, doesn't have that size. It's 2. 2 is shikha. And we'll continue on the Gemara. Now, just like we keep on learning, when it comes to shikha explicitly is oimer. That was the pasuk that we had, b'shachachta oimer. But since the pasuk begins, ki siksoir kitzircha b'sodecha ki siksoir, so we learned that if when you're cutting you forget, not an oimer, you forget a patch, also shikha. Oh, so now we're going to go to the same thing. Come on, sheyesh b'sosayim u'shechacha, that if you have a comma, a patch, that I'm going to say the words potentially will have in it kernels in the amount of sosayim. That's the way we're going to learn it. You know, it's guys, when you have standing grain, you have the kashim, you have all of the animal fodder, the klipa. We're speaking about it's such a big patch that after you were to thresh it and you would have the kernels will amount to sosayim, and you forgot that whole patch. Same rule. And the Gemara is going to reiterate something that we learned before. Since the Torah together in the same pasuk and parshas Kisei, so we juxtapose dinim of this, go to that. Now clarifies the Mishnah. That's the rule of Royin. When we say a it doesn't go by what's actually there. It goes by what potentially could have been there. What do I mean by that? We have to become abyssal farmers when grains, when the stalks are growing. Not only do we need to have the Eibishter's rain, and the sunlight. You should know that one of the big sources of nourishment that things need is ruach. Like we need the ruach. Shlomo needs abyssal ruach. Now Pesach catches up a day late. by some people. You chop, it's over. Oh, you can get tired. So now there are good ruchais and there are bad ruchais. In Bavli, we have the sugyas many times about ruch tzfainis and ruch deraimis, and there are certain ruchais that what they do is they're destructive winds, and the little kernels, because of those ruchais, never fully mature. So you can have the quantity of stalks that if they would not have been damaged by certain types of ruchais, they would have become how much grain, how much kernels? That would be tusosayim. The poil, because of the ruchais, they're going to remain underdeveloped. Says the Mishnah that even if the poil mamish ain't bososayim, but if the patch that you forgot, you farmer, was abal hiru oyalasoy sosayim, okay, even if in actuality he shall toifach. Toifach is a certain legume that's called in English, so that in the shelfin, a grass pea. I would rather go with the toifach, and that is an extraordinarily thin kernel. The opposite of barley kernels that are plump, relative. So even if it's the skinniest of the skinniest, so you're not going to end up with the weight. We're going to go with the weight, the 90 pounds after you went ahead and you threshed it. You're not going to have that. We look at it. So they're stunted. But like we said in the Hagdama, that's one of the applications of Roy. And now we apply the rule that if you forgot that patch of standing grain, it's not shikha. So that's the big rule we had in the Mishnah. So, yeah.
Rabbi, I missed a few days. I cannot happen. So shikha is not just a little bit. It could be suitcases of grain, and it's still like shikha.
Punkt fakert. So we are learning that, first of all, there's two steps. Step number one is there are 2 points of shikha. Shikchas kama, shikchas oimer. Means when I'm harvesting, I went by a patch. Shikha, leave it for the aniyim. Or when I'm picking up the bundles to take them to the gadish. If I forget, aniyim. In both cases, if I forgot a lot, it remains shabal abayis. So we began today's share. If I forgot 3 bundles, it's not shikha anymore. This Mishnah is saying, even if you only forgot 1 bundle, if the bundle weighs 2 sa'ah, also not shikha. Then we had a machlokes that Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim, if I forgot 2 bundles, together they weigh 2 sa'ah. Rabbi Gamliel says, Shabal Abayis, Mitztaref. And then the Mishnah says that the rule of Sasayim also goes by Kama.
But you said 2 sa'ah is a lot. It's not a little bit.
That's my whole point, that there is a cutoff point that if I forgot that much, then it remains Shabal Abayis. No, it's the law of Shikha is only up until a certain amount. It's Gavaldik.
But it's still a big amount, meaning like you didn't forget a few like kernels, like you forgot like a suitcase, you forgot like 30 pounds, 50.
Mamish, yes. If I forgot, according to the Chachamim, if I forgot 90 pounds, if it's not in 1 bundle, 90 pounds is a nice amount. It's laniyam, shikha. Okay. Now, like we mentioned, we're going to have 2 sources as to the rationale behind. Now, in the Mishnah, we already had the words gadish from the Chachamim. If it's 2 sa'ah, it's gadish. Okay, 1 second. Says Amar Rabbi Lazar, and this is a Tana. That's not an Amoida. And Ablozer says again today. The pasuk that we have in Kisei say, Kisiksoid Kitzircha Bisodecha V'Shachachta. You can put a comma here. That's the source of Shikchas comma, or V'Shachachta Oimer Basada. And what does the Torah say? It doesn't even quote. Loisashuv Lakachta. So says Rabbi Lazar or Rabbi Eliezer. Something that you could take, for which the Torah tells you don't go back and take it. It means you could take it physically. That is where it's shayah shikha. But Yotzazem, this is speaking about weight, the weight issue. Once it's that weight, let's go, it's 90 pounds. The Torah doesn't have to tell you Literally, don't go back to take it. Anyways, I can't take it. So therefore, I could take it. That's one source. There's another source. There's another Tana that explains the rationale behind this rule of Tusa. When it says V'shachachta oimer, oimer is an oimer, a sheaf, a bundle, a pekel, and not a godish, not a heap. Okay. Fragt die Gemara Echavida, the Lashon Yerushalmi. That would be in Bavli says that when I pull the Mai Benayu, will there be a difference between the two? Yes, there will be. One difference will be, the first one is we're at the end of Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, that Shachach Oimer Echad B'tzidoi. If you forgot a bundle of 2 sa'ah. And we said it's not shikha. Right next to it, you forgot a normal Oimer. Turning to Daf Nun Hey Amud Beis, in Ta'avdinei Oimer, if we're not going to go with the Istanoyatani, we're not going to say it's because it's a Gadish. We're going to say that it's a bundle. Okay? So why is it exempt? Like Rabbi Lazar, because you can't pick it up. It's too heavy, but it's considered an Oimer. Divrei HaKoil, that Shikha. What's Divrei HaKoil? So you have to remember that we learned above in the Mishnah, Achloikes B'Shamai and Beis Hillel. What happens if you forget an Oimer? The Mishnah gave 2 examples of a landmark, and then the Mishnah gave 2 examples of something unique, not a landmark. One is if you forget a Oimer near the Gadish, the Oimer near the Gadish. Beisham, and we don't pass like Beishamai. Beishamai says it's not Shikha. So if we're going to go with Rabbi Eliezer, that the 2 saw Oimer is called an Oimer, then even Beishamai will be Moida. You forgot 2 B'chlal, according to Beishamai, even according to Beis Hillel, then it's going to be Divrei HaKol Shikha. It won't be included in the exception that we learned above, that if you forget an Oimer right near a Gadish, it's not Shikha, there's no Gadish here. But the in Ta'avdinei Gadish, if we're going to follow the second Tana, and the reason why 2 saw is excluded midin shikha means it's not shikha. It means it belongs to Balabayas is because we view it as a gadish. So then, if you forget an oimer next to it, then that will be machlokes Beishamai and Beis Hillel that we had above. Gavaldik. Now we don't pass it that way, but Beishamai will hold that it's not shikha. So that is one nafkamin. Says the Gemara, I'll give you another nafkamin. Shokach. Shnei Oymarim B'tzidoi, same thing. Okay, we just learned, we started today's daf, right? Going to the sources, Beis Hillel holds, we're going now L'shitas Beis Hillel. We're not making an afkamina between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. We're making an afkamina and halach. I forget 3 sheaves or more, it's not shikha. So if I had the big gadish, the big 2 saw, and next to it I forgot 2 Oymarim, how much do you have? You have 3, the big one and the 2. Now, if the big one is a gadish, then it's not included. Then the 2 is going to be shikha. But if we're going to go, it's a weight issue. It's not a classified gadish issue. It's an oimer. So now you forgot 3 oimarim. None of them will be shikha. If it still is an oimer, and a chanami, it's a machlokes Beishamai Beis Hillel. According to Beishamai, even if you forget 3, it's still shikha. The point of the Gemara is, but Beis Hillel, it will be shikha. And before the nafkamina was Beishamai. This is better now. This is the nafkamina and halach. But ita avdine gadish, like the second ist haloi tane, then ain't even kishura according to Beis Hillel. Why not? Because you didn't forget 3. You forgot 2 oimarim. The other one is a gadish. Okay, to point out, I think what's an obvious is that in our Mishnah, when the Mishnah records the machlokes Rabbi Gamliel and the Chachamim, and the back and forth, and the Chachamim respond that no, Gadish, clearly, our Mishnah is siding with that Istanoi Tane. Okay, now we learned in the Mishnah that the same rule you have by Omer, the same rule you have by Kama, which means if a person, let's get back into it, Daf Nun Hey Amud Beis. if a person, when they are harvesting, they walked by standing grain in the amount that if you would have harvested it, you would have gotten kernels potentially that would have weighed 90 pounds, even though you forgot it. That amount is not shikha. The balabas gets to keep it. And the sai, according to both reasons, either it's a weight, anyways, you can't pick it up. Or the issue is because Gadish, both of the reasons that we gave for the limit of Sosayim is only Shayach by Omer. The Mishnah then applied the same rule by Kama. Where do you get that from? And the answer will be because the Torah puts them together. So all of the rules by one go to the other. We had this above. Amar Rabbi Yoina invited the pasuk in Kiseitzer. Kisitzer kitzircha bisatcha. Now normally you put a comma here and then you say b'shachachtu eme basad. We also learned above. Read kisitzer kitzircha b'shachachta. That the Torah is also speaking about you forget while you're harvesting. In other words, in the same pasuk we have the source both for the din of shikchas kama and for shikchas oimer. So we say, just like oimer sheyesh b'sasai mishchachai, whatever the reason is, ein shikcha, fact that the Torah is makish. Kama to oimer, we apply the same rule. Sheyesh b'sasai mishchachai ein shikcha. And now we're going to have the final segment in the Gemara before the new halacha vav will be about the din of royin. For the people that just came on board, royin means, let me tell you by heart, I'll help you. What is royin? If I walk by standing grain, that when I will harvest it, it's going to have 90 pounds, be'erech. Even if I forgot it, it's not forgotten. It's too big. Said the Mishnah, that what happens if while the grains were growing, there was some sort of destructive wind, it stunted the growth of the kernels. When I will harvest this, it will not have 90 pounds. Doesn't matter. If without that destructive force, if it would have turned into that under normal circumstances, ro'in oto, we look as if. Now, how far back do you say ro'in oisa? What happens if a person harvested his grain before the kernels bichlal began to develop? Why would someone do that? If they need animal fodder, just as an example. If you don't need it if you want to feed the animals, the stalks themselves, in other words, you harvested it before there was even a kernel in there. Do you say royin? The Gemara says no. Royin only means it began to develop. Royin also as if it would be fully developed. That's the Gemara. I feel he shall toifach, even if the kernels are like that legume called a graspy, which is very thin, but we don't we view it as if it was a full plump barley grain. Amar Rabbi Yosi, that when do we say royin? Ubavad shibalin. Shibalin means that you have ears of grain. Shibalin is a word that we use once the kernels begin to develop. Before that, it's called kash. Kash means straw. There we say that hoyu dakois, even though there are dakois, royinoisoi kilamaruchas. If they are shedufais, royinoisoi kilamaleyes. Rabbi Yossi is saying in the positive, but what he's trying to exclude is a negative. But if you only have grain, look inside the marafulda, it's a little bit towards the second half of the Amos, 12 lines from the bottom. Well, Shibalin means there should be ears. That means there should be something developing inside the straw. And what do you have then? You only have the kashin, mishum kashin, lo nechshav kama l'sosayim. That's the big call. No, it's the potential. You have to know how to touch up potential. There has to be already something there. And not, I'll use the words of that we have in Hasidus. We don't make royin from koyach hayuli. There has to be a metzias that we royin a bigger metzias. Okay, l'chaim. Let's go on to the final mission. This is a big cloud. We said the words in the Hagdama. It's good to hear it again. We'll get it better. Another exception. Shikha. If I forgot whether a bundle or standing grain, but right adjacent to it, the Gemara will define nearness. There was still grain that I didn't cut. In other words, when you look at a field, if the field is partially cut, it doesn't mean you forgot anything. You didn't get up to there yet. When do we say that something is forgotten? Whether it's the bundle, whether it's the comma, the standing grain, it's not near on shikchad comma, because if it's near comma, you know how much comma? Even only one stalk, the Mishnah will say. It's matzil, it saves its neighbor. Comma, matzela sesoimer, ve'esa comma. In contrast, what about if I'm gathering bundles and there is a bundle that I didn't get to yet? So it's not shikchad. What happens if next to it I did forget an oimer or comma? The ability of saving is unique to standing grain. You can say al pi pnimius. Standing is when you're connected to the ground. You know, a tzaddik is matzah. Right? The whole thing with Avraham Avinu was im yesh chamishum tzaddikim, if there will be only 10 tzaddikim. Means the people that are near a yid that's connected, they're saved. But that's because the Jew is connected to the source. Once you become separated, you can't save yourself. You for sure cannot save others. Now, the rule, it has to be near. The Mishnah is not telling you what near is. I know that. So we're going to get that in the Gemara. But the Mishnah will clarify one point. My friends, standing grain has no minimum amount. The koyach of saving, says the Mishnah, Ezehi kama shimatzelas, as for oimer, and by the way, doesn't only mean oimer. Shimatzelas as oimer as hakama, both. Kol she'ena shikha filu kelach echad. That means even if what you have nearby that you didn't yet cut was even only one stalk, if you did not yet get there, that means it's not shikchad yet, it's standing. Whatever is halachically next to it, even if that you forgot, whether it's a comma, whether it's an oimer, the comma is matzil. Okay, and a lot more we're going to get in the Gemara. How great is that? Now, let's go to Daf Nun Vav, and we're going to conclude the Mishnah today. And I want you to remember the machloikis that we had on Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph between Rabbi and Gamliel. Remember when you forgot 2 sheaves, each one is 1 saw, or 1.5 and a half. If you were to combine it, it would make 2 saw. Rabbi and Gamliel hold that it's mitzdarek, and therefore labalabayis, the chachamim don't combine them. Therefore laniim put that in a low shelf will need it. Now says the Mishnah, saw tvua akura usaw she'ein akura. Here, it's not 2 oimarim that you forgot. No. Here you have a saw of tvua that you already uprooted. In other words, it's an oimer near a saw that's not akura. That means you forgot a oimer next to a comma. You got it? If you were to combine them, you're going to have 2 saw. We also learned that the rule of 2 saw is both by the oimer, and therefore, since the Torah is makish one to the other, the din of 2 saw is also by a comma and noch royim. But now it's different. Here we're not combining 2 oimarim. Now we're speaking about combining standing, attached, and detached. Similarly, if you have an Elon, same concept of shikha, and we learned this yesterday, that when, for example, you are harvesting an olive tree, so many times they would pile all of the olives right near the tree, and then at some point, you have many trees, you would go by your field and you would gather all of those piles to put them in the back. If you forgot there, that's mama shikha. The same rules. If you forgot 1 pile or 2 piles, shikha. If you got 3 piles, not shikha. Now I want to use the word of 2 saw. So I have this standing pile of olives, let's say in the amount of 1 saw. Adjacent to it, there is a tree that has attached olives in the quantity of 1 saw. I forgot both this and that. Or you have shum or bitzalim. Let's go with the Pnei Moshe, 6 lines from the top. Im shakach be'ilan, saw a peiris telushim, eitzel saw a peiris mechubarim, like we explained by the olives. V'chein b'shum, you have garlic, sheshakach miktsasai b'talush, u'miktsasai b'mechubar. No, we're not combining shum ubitzalim, says the Pnei Moshe. We're just giving different examples of items that you sum totaled forgot two sa'ah, but it's not two equals that we had again, machlekes Rabban Gamliel or the Chachamim. Here, there's another step. One is attached, one is detached. Here, says the Mishnah, Einon mitztarfin. They do not combine. Gewaldig.
I don't understand how is it different from the ratio of the Mishnah. Como Matzeres Esaomer. Why over there is Matzeres Esaomer? Why this not?
That's a whole different thing, Shlomo. That's why it's good to hear the comma. It took me also. Comma means that when I'm harvesting a field, okay, if what I forgot is near, it's near, halachically near, something that I did not get to yet, the standing saves what is near it. We have to see what near means, Shlomo. I know we have to define it. Here we're speaking about, I forgot both. There's nothing. Here, the attached shleima is shikha. The comma that's matzel is a comma that you did not forget. Here you forgot. We're going back to the Mishnah we had on Daf Nun Hey. No, it's the chiddush here will be is that even though Rabban Gamliel holds that two oimarim, saw and a half a saw, two, you combine them to two saw, he'll be moide. You know why you combine them? Because they're equal. There are two bundles. If I have to be metzarev, attached with detail, you don't combine them. It's like a double combination. You have to combine them to make them into two saw, but they're not even the same. You don't combine them. Einam mitztarfin. And Rabbi Yossi argues. Rabbi Yossi say you do combine them. There's only one case where you don't combine them. Rabbi Yossi, more than Rabbi Gamliel, you combine them, but it's possible that in between the detached and the attached, it could be that there is something that already became matnas aniyim. Just as an example, it could be that you had leket. Let's say we're speaking about grain. So I forgot a bundle, one saw. Nearby there's kama shlemi that I forgot, not kama matzelas that I forgot, but in between it there happens to be 2 ears of leket. If there is something physically in between the detached and the attached that already belongs to the ani, so it's almost like this part of the field, forget about the shikha, whether it's mine, the other part of the field is mine. In between, there's a yad of the ani. If there is, Rabbi Yossi Emer, im bas reshus la'ani be'emsa, if there is something because of matnas aniyim, will be peret. If it happens to be in between the detached and the attached, that existence is only there will we say emet star. But if there isn't anything that belongs to an in between, this is more than Rabban Gamliel. Not only is he not bothered with making it tziruf, oimer, he makes it tziruf her also. Yes, we'll stop over here and God willing to be continued.